This is the Clear Money Talk podcast, offering up creative solutions for your retirement future through education, choice, transparency, and empathy. Now, your host, CEO and founder of Clear Financial Partners, Tim Clairmont, and co-host, Tyler Andrews.
Hello. My name is Tim Clairmont. I'm the CEO and founder of Clear Financial Partners, and this is Clear Money Talk. I'm so glad to have you here. Thanks for spending some time listening to us. As always, of course, your co-host is Mr. Tyler Andrews.
Thank you, Tim, for the introduction. Hello, loyal listeners. We're excited to do another podcast. These are always fun. It's one of the highlights of my weeks, I guess, is when I look back at the weeks. We do these on Monday, and I always look forward to Monday. Some people dread it, but we just hit it with enthusiasm and energy, and we're just happy to educate you guys and all of our listeners.
Absolutely. You know, it's funny. I didn't know about the word infotainment until, I don't know, it's been several years now, but it wasn't raised with that terminology. That's really what we try to do. We're trying to inform you, as much as we can. We're educating you and answering the money-related question that you have on here. But the tainment part is we're trying to have a good time and trying to make this fun for you too. Nobody likes to go to that dry, boring class in school where you're just droning on and you just fall asleep and you just wish you weren't there, and that's not what we want. We want to make sure you're having a good time, and we have a good time doing this. So frankly, we hope you're having a good time, but we already know we're having a good time. So we'll do our best.
We'll take it.
Answer the money-related question of the day, which I don't know. That's our new shtick. Lately, it's I don't get to find out in advance. Tyler puts them together, and then he hits me with it, and we just start milking our brains for everything that we can think of to share with you about whatever this money-related question is. So what's the question of the day?
Question of the day: what can personal growth teach us about financial growth?
Ooh, what can personal growth teach us about financial growth?
So this will be a fun one. I mean, they're always fun, but this one will be a little bit unique. If you came to literally nerd out and just get the nitty-gritty of how certain financial things work, this might not be the podcast. This one's going to be a little bit different. How do the two parallel? How do they relate? How do they differ, personal growth and financial growth? But I think there's a lot of good parallels that are worth talking about.
Your timing is perfect for this question, actually. And
Good. Tell me why.
Maybe you saw that already. I don't know. But, so here's why the timing is particularly perfect for him asking me this question. Now, I don't know when you're going to hear this. We're recording it today. So, but we're recording it shortly after the first of the year. So by the time you get this, it's probably to be the end of January or something along those lines. But I'm in that mindset of what am I going to accomplish to make things even better in this world in 2025? And that's where I'm at right now. So personal growth and that professional and financial growth, how do you cross apply that? Discipline is a big part of success in I think achieving anything that you want to achieve in life. And if you can implement those disciplines that are healthy, it'll help you achieve whatever you want to accomplish in both personal growth and in your financial planning and your financial growth. And I'm actually in the middle of a commitment right now related to that. So I'm happy to share a little bit of how I've been able to reach some personal growth goals, and also how I can correlate those to some of the financial growth goals. And maybe through sharing some of those stories with you, you can correlate, relate, and see if there's any piece of that might spark you to have a little bit extra discipline or a little bit make a new commitment to yourself. But yeah, I have a lot of thoughts on this issue. So,
yeah, that's great, and I'm happy to go down whatever avenues you want. I did have a little bit of a structure. I like having a little bit of structure, but keeping it loose enough where we can riff and do whatever we please. But I think let's talk about parallels between personal growth and financial growth. And I think you already hit on one, which was discipline, and I had it written down as consistency is key.
Yeah,
consistency is key with personal growth. It's also very pinnacle for financial growth. And I think one of the best examples is what you were going to talk about is working out. And when you have consistency in working out, that's when you see the results. When you have consistency of investing, dollar cost averaging into investments, that's where the consistency is key in those situations to see not only short-term but also long-term benefits and results. And at the end of the day, we do things because we want to see results, right? Mm-hmm. And I think that's where you were going to go with that, right?
Yeah, no, you're spot on. In fact, I was just reading one of the blogs that I read on a relatively regular basis. I get emails from a gentleman by the name of Peter Diamandis, Diamondis, Peter Diamandis, and I'm part of his Abundance 360 coaching program. Anyway, one of his belief sets that he focuses on is longevity and trying to live as long of a lifetime, a healthy lifespan as possible. And I'm a big believer in that. As you may have heard if you've listened to some of these before, I'm shooting for 200. I want to live a long, healthy lifespan. And one of the things that I just read in the last few days from his blog is, they were talking about longevity, and the key to longevity right now, until they figure out some really cool stuff later, was 3 things. And ironically, those 3 things are exactly what we're talking about today, which it was diet, it was sleep, and it was exercise. And diet, sleep, and exercise, I mean, those are those personal habits that can become so challenging to maintain. It's so easy to sacrifice sleep because we just want to stay up and have a good time, then we got to get up earlier, and then we lose sleep. And the consequences of that are, frankly, a less healthy lifestyle and often a shorter lifetime. And that's not great. So prioritizing your sleep can be really, really helpful. And then, as far as diet, obviously a challenge. It's certainly a challenge I've suffered from as far as my whole life. I eat out pretty much every meal. And as I was a kid, we used to eat out all the time. I grew up in the restaurant business. And, when you eat out all the time and you like the taste of food, you often eat more food than you probably need. So I've definitely suffered from that. And so that's a constant challenge. But exercise is really where you were just talking about, Tyler. And that was, I was on a good exercise regimen a few years ago. I hate exercise fundamentally. I don't like it. There's nothing. In fact, I was talking to a trainer. This is a couple of weeks ago over the holiday. Actually, so he's a massage therapist. So I was getting a massage, and I'm celebrating the end of the year, this New Year's, and he as I finished the massage, he says to me, he says something like, I said, I don't like to exercise. He says, I like to exercise outside, and I said, I wish there was any adjective I could put after I like to exercise that would make that sentence true. But there isn't. He chuckled a little bit and he said, well, what about I like to exercise while eating pizza and drinking beer? And it's like, honestly, even then I would have preferred to just remove the exercise and just eaten the pizza and drank the beer. I still don't know if that's true. But the point is, I don't particularly enjoy exercise. And I fell off the exercise wagon about, probably 9 months ago. I just pretty much stopped. About 34 days ago now, I was talking to a group of friends, and we made a commitment together. And that commitment together, we said, hey, you know what, 30 minutes a day, 5 days a week, that's the commitment. And as long as we do 30 minutes a day of exercise, focusing on our body, whatever kind of exercise, yoga, stretching, high intensity workout, running, doesn't matter. The point is consistency, just like what Tyler said, doing that regular exercise. We know we're going to be better for it. And so we made that commitment. I can tell you today's my 34th day in a row of exercising for at least 30 minutes every single day.
Congrats. That's huge.
Yeah. I'm shooting for 200,
every day.
200 days, every day.
Wow.
That's
hard, man.
One of the keys to success here that I've discovered in this, again, this is cross-applicable to your financial success as well, but also your personal success, is making a commitment and sticking to it. And if you don't stick to it, you have a consequence that you're willing to follow through with. And this is one of the very first lessons I learned from an organization that I'm a big fan of called MDRT, Million Dollar Roundtable. MDRT in 2011, I was in Atlanta at their conference, and their very first meeting I went to was called their First Timers Experience. There was a psychologist who was giving a speech. And the psychologist articulated that fundamentally they've done all these studies, and pain, unfortunately, is more motivating than pleasure. And they proved this empirically. And so I can tell you how they proved it, but bottom line, take it for granted for now. I don't know. If we have enough time, I'll go back to the story about the mouse and the cheese, or you can ask me later if I don't get to it in this podcast. But the point is, if pain is more motivating than pleasure, the argument was, if you have something you want to accomplish in life, you need to have a consequence that's painful, that's a little bit more painful than the work that goes into the thing that you're trying to accomplish. And so the consequence has to be something that is so painful that you really don't want to have to do that. So you'll do the good thing for you that you were struggling to find the motivation to do in the first place. And using the consequence that we came up with, which is ultimately to light money on fire, which I do not want it to do. You can't make up a consequence, by the way, that is something that you can rationalize. So if you rationalize like, if I don't do, for example, this workout regimen. If let's say that I have 5 days a week, 30 minutes a day, that I have to do this workout. And if I don't do it all 5 days that week, the consequence is I have to give $500 to charity. Like, okay, well, on that third day when I'm waking up and I'm like, I just kind of feel like giving $500 to charity this week. And then I don't do the workout because I rationalized giving the money to charity. Now, if on the other hand, that $500 has to go to a bowl and light it on fire, a charity did not get that $500 that would have really changed the lives of so many individuals. The pain associated with the consequence of me stealing that money from the mouths of babes is just so hard for me to even accept that I would make sure I did the workout. So you make sure you get the workouts done. So why am I doing it 7 days a week? Because I don't want to screw up and miss one.
I like it.
That's why I'm just going to do 30 minutes every day, because if I miss one, I feel like I would be robbing from the mouths of babes.
And that's where that discipline comes in.
Yeah.
Being able to do it every day and having that regimen is so crucial. So that's great. I love the parallels between these two that we're talking through. That's awesome. Another one of them is diversification of efforts, which I thought was an interesting concept as I was taking notes about this podcast, is that diversification, we all know diversification when it comes to our finances, don't have all your eggs in one basket. We've all heard it many times, and it still reigns true to this day. And I think it also cross-pollinates to our personal growth, right? Diversification of efforts, and not spending all of your time and energy in one thing, but, being able to do many things, and you don't necessarily have to be an expert or the best at all these things, but being able to try new things is important for growth, personal growth, and whether you fail or succeed, both of those can be looked at as positives. I think oftentimes we're scared to fail, but when it comes to personal growth, sometimes failing is the best educator that exists. So that was a fun parallel. Any thoughts on that one?
Nice. I'm struggling to try to correlate the diversification of efforts concept. I'm just as you unpack that a little bit more.
Yeah, I was thinking more of just more general, just diversification. But I guess when you hear diversification of efforts, the efforts parts tricks me up a little bit too. I guess.
Because obviously, you when you have investing, you want to diversify your portfolio.
Correct.
You don't want to have all of your risk tied into one investment strategy. That's very aggressive. And so, generally speaking, most people will try to invest in a diversified portfolio that spreads the risk around. And it's the same way that you want to have that, I guess, diversification of effort. If you have effort going into multiple things, then you can achieve multiple things with personal growth. Maybe the correlation would be to say, when I'm thinking about personal growth, I'm not just thinking about one thing. Like we talked about exercise, sleep, and diet already.
Mindfulness, mental health.
Yeah, there's so many things. I mean, your
relationship.
I was just thinking, you got your family and your friends and yourself and your significant other. And hopefully you have a significant other. You do great. Your children. We have so many hats that we wear as human beings, and there are so many different relationships there, and just managing those relationships, including the one that you have with yourself, is a huge part of that personal growth and figuring out what you want to accomplish. So there's discipline and there's consistency and there's so much of that. In fact, if you look at some of the most successful financially successful individuals in the world, you will often find that they have a very disciplined and consistent routine. Yeah. And I've one great quote that I heard from a good friend of mine, Jim Horan. Unfortunately, he's passed at this time, but he was the creator of the one-page business plan, and we were friends for the last few years of his life. He shared a slide with me in one of his presentations that I use today on a regular basis with many of my clients and many of my advisors that I teach. And that slide says, the next level of success always requires the next level of discipline. And that quote, I feel like, really resonates. If you want to reach the next level of success in anything, you've got to apply a little bit more discipline than you're currently applying. And I think that can be absolutely correlated to money. One other thing that comes to mind as we're talking about this cross parallels, there's a book by James Clear called Atomic Habits.
And it's a great book.
Great book. There he talks about layering and stacking your habits. And one of the things that I am really grateful for that's been successful for me in this workout regimen is I stack another habit right behind my workout. So I do my workout for my 30 minutes, which I hate because I've already told you guys I hate exercise. There's absolutely no way that's ever going to change for me. But I hate exercise. I just get it done, and then I feel better about it, so I don't have to think about it again the rest of the day. But after the exercise, my favorite thing to do is play guitar and sing. And so I get to play guitar and sing. So I end up practicing the guitar and the singing on a more regular basis because I'm getting that consistency by stacking that habit immediately after my workout. So I do my workout and then I play guitar and sing while I'm cooling down, and then I get ready for the day. And so that stacking process, you end up getting 2 for 1. And maybe that's that diversification of efforts we were talking about too. If you do some stacking, layering is the other concept James Clear talks about in Atomic Habits, which is what if you can get 2 habits done simultaneously? So if you think about layering, you think about when you're doing the workout, if you get the workout regimen down so you don't need to maybe listen to the workout, you can listen to a podcast or you can listen to a book, an Audible. A lot of times I'll digest the Audibles while I do my workout. So I'm stimulating both, I'm completing a book while I'm also simultaneously getting my workout in. And by doing those 2 things together, that was an example of layering. So you're layering these habits on top of each other, and you can accomplish even more with less time, which is where it all kind of comes into play. That happens inside of your 401ks or your contributions to your existing retirement accounts through your employer, because many times you might make that contribution in there just to get the match dollars. Your company might give you match dollars or profit sharing, and they're making these contributions for you. But what you're doing is you're actually layering your own contributions on top of that. So you're benefiting from your contributions, and hopefully you're maxing out your retirement accounts each year, in addition to the employer layering their contributions on top of that. And that's a huge way you can increase your financial success if you're fortunate enough to have a qualified retirement plan through your employer with match dollars. And by the way, if you're self-employed and you are the employer, there's a lot of options available for you to take advantage of some of those kinds of plans. That's the kind of stuff we do on a regular basis too.
Absolutely. Very cool. Okay, so the topic is, what can personal growth teach us about financial growth? Let's talk about some lessons personal growth offers to financial growth.
Okay.
And I got some ideas, and I'm just going to share them, and then we can go back and forth a little bit quickly.
Perfect.
Mindset over mechanics. So a growth mindset in personal development encourages adaptability and resilience. And I think that also is, can teach us a lot of things about financial growth, but, the essential traits basically for navigating volatile markets. And, we often, everyone encounters financial setbacks at one point in their life, whether it's losing a job or losing, a loved one and losing an income source, whatever it might be. But having that growth mindset and the resilience that comes along with that can help with financial growth or just, financial matters in general. So I thought that was an interesting parallel between the two.
Spot on.
Yeah.
It reminds me of when I was 21 years old. So when I was 21 years old, I had just graduated college. And I was starting in the financial services profession. And so it was June of that year. I guess May, I graduated college. I get going in June, and I'm working really hard and just trying to make ends meet. And that's, of course, when I discovered the maximum contribution that you could put into a retirement account that year, which I think was around $16,000, $17,000. It was, the 401k today's got room for about $23,000 or so dollars. 23.5 maybe.
23.5 in 2025.
23.5 in 2025. Yeah. Unless you're 50 years old or older, in which case it's another $7,000. So it's like
$7,500 for
$7,500.
$31,000.
$31,000.
Yeah.
Excellent. Good.
Yeah.
I can always count on Tyler to have those numbers.
Oh, I got you. Yeah.
Thanks, bro. So moving to that mentality, that mindset point, I felt physically nauseous if I didn't max out both the Roth IRA and my retirement account that year as much as I possibly could. And so I would scrimp and spend less money so that I could afford to hit that number. And by having that mindset of knowing, just because knowing there, once you hit the max, that's it. You can't put any more in. The IRS won't let you. It's such a good deal for most of the people that are interested in saving for retirement down the road. Of course, there's consequences and everything. You need to pay attention to that. 59.5%, 10% rule and physical access to it, loanability, things like that. You pay attention to the downsides too to saving for retirement. Make sure you invest it smartly too. That's obviously critical. But my point is, for me, I wanted to save the maximum each year because the IRS allows you to only put in so much. So let's make sure we hit that number. It changes your behavior, changes your daily behavior, so that you will spend less money on other things, so that you can make sure you accomplish that goal. And that applies to both personal goals and your financial success.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Thanks for sharing that story.
Yeah,
that's cool. Another personal growth offers to financial growth is the importance of patience. So both personal and financial growth require delayed gratification and the ability to stay focused on short-term and long-term goals, despite sometimes our short-term challenges that we encounter, whether it's you're on a very disciplined workout schedule and you roll an ankle like Tyler did last year when he was training for a half marathon, and then you can't run at all for a month. And that sucked. And you had that short-term setback, but staying focused on the long-term goal helps to keep you planted, I guess.
Yeah.
And so, the importance of patience is very important for finances and personal growth. It's boiling water is a great analogy I've heard before. I forget the temperature at which water starts to boil, but you have that pot on the stove for a while and the heat's going and nothing's happening. And you're like, what's going on? And it's not until it reaches a certain temperature and it starts to exponentially start to boil and you see all the bubbles coming up. Same thing with personal growth. You don't see results instantly. If you're working out, you look in the mirror daily, you're not seeing the changes that you want because it takes time. And the same thing with financial growth and financial discipline. It takes a long time usually. It's a long-term goal and plan to see the results typically that most people want to see out of their finances. So having that discipline, that patience is paramount, if you ask me.
It reminds me so much of some of the conversations that I've had with clients over the years. When you contribute to retirement accounts, like for example, I can think of one client that comes to mind right now, very, very good friend of mine as well as a client. And he was contributing into his retirement account, like the 401k stuff, for several years, large contributions, but he'd only made a small contribution to a Roth IRA. And his Roth IRA had, let's say, about $5,000 in it. And then they didn't add any money to it. And the 401k was getting all these contributions and everything. So the 401k got quite large. The 401k got to, let's say, $400,000 or so. And then the interest earnings were pretty nice. So let's say that in 1 year when the earnings were pretty high, that particular year he might have made 10 or 15%. So on $400,000, that's $40,000 to $60,000 of additional earnings. That $400,000 jumps to $440,000 or $460,000 that year if he gets a 10 or 15% rate of return. Now, he might have earned 20% in the Roth IRA that year, an even better rate of return, but it was on a $5,000 account, and so it's only $6,000 at the end of the year. So he looks at the Roth IRA and says, this only made me $1,000, and my 401k made $40,000 to $60,000. This Roth IRA sucks. Let's get rid of it, and let's just keep contributing more into the 401k. And that's not the truth. The truth is the Roth actually did better rate of return wise in that example. It's just there was less fuel in it. There was less money in it. And so that delayed gratification that we're talking about, the snowball, when you start a snowball at the top of a mountain, it's very small and you roll it down that mountain. But when it gets to the bottom, every turn of the snowball is packing on so much more snow. And that's the way it works with saving. The sooner you start, the earlier you start, the bigger you get the snowball, the more growth you'll experience later and the more motivating it can feel when you see bigger dollars going in. Even if the percentages aren't necessarily as high.
That actually leads nicely into the next one, which is tracking progress. So I wrote personal growth often involves like setting benchmarks, celebrating milestones. So if you keep going back to like working out or whatever, it takes time. But when you reach those milestones, you need to celebrate them. Same thing can be said about financial growth is that most people track their financial goals and have financial goals in general, and celebrating those incremental successes when they happen are important. You say, I want my net worth to be $100,000. What am I going to do to get there? So you set attainable goals and a plan, an action plan to get there. And when you get there, it's worth celebrating. And the same thing with your personal growth. So it's about tracking progress, and however you track progress is going to be different from other people potentially. But those things are important, and having those benchmarks to go off of and know where you're at is a lot of stuff I do for not only my personal growth, but also my financial portfolio and growth and everything I'm doing there. So
great.
I've
watched your level of discipline increase over the years too.
Oh, was it really bad when I started?
No, it wasn't really bad. It was good, but I'm just saying that I can see every year, Tyler, you increase your discipline in lots of things, and I hope you're feeling the benefits of that.
I am. I mean, what's the saying that if you continue to do the same thing every day and expect different results, like that's the definition of insanity or something like that. It's and you mentioned it earlier, to reach that next level of success, you need to attain that next level of discipline.
Mm-hmm. That's right. Yeah.
I think that I truly believe that is truth.
Spot on.
Sometimes we hear analogies and sayings and things like that, and you don't fully get on board with it. But that one, I just don't know how someone can get on board with that concept.
Yep.
Okay.
We got to bring the just the answer home.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, we're at that point now.
Where are we at? We're at 24 minutes.
Yeah, for those people who so this is going to start the just the answer.
Yeah, please.
So for those of you that are getting just the answer, I'm going to say you're missing out on a lot of really good stories and personal anecdotes and really applicable information. I would encourage you to listen to the full podcast. But if you just want the answer to the question, I'm going to go ahead and have Tyler give it to you. Go for it.
Okay, let's do it. Our topic of the day was, what can personal growth teach us about financial growth? So we wanted to see what parallels exist between personal growth, financial growth. What can personal growth teach us about financial growth, and how do they relate? Because at the end of the day, a lot of people put a lot of pressure and weight on personal growth and their financial growth, and they let their emotions come into play when things don't go well or when they do go well, and all that's important. And knowing the relationship between those two things, I think, is very healthy. So we wanted to talk about that. A few of the first things that we talked about was the parallels between personal growth and financial growth. One of them is discipline, or consistency is key. Another one was the power of compounding. So being able to, in your personal life and financial, do something with the discipline and consistency that we were talking about, and do it for long enough where the benefits and the growth that you're experiencing, personal or financially speaking, build on itself. So that's the eighth wonder of the world is compound, based on
compound interest.
Compound
interest.
Einstein. So
Albert Einstein said the eighth wonder of the world is compound interest.
It's a really fascinating thing, and it can be cross applicable to both aspects of your life, financial or personal. The other thing that we talked about from the get go was diversification of efforts. We all know, don't put all your eggs in one basket. Diversify your investment strategies and portfolios to mitigate risk, so on and so forth. We have other podcasts that go more into detail on that. Give us a phone call if you want to talk more about diversification of financial matters, but also in your personal growth and your personal lives, diversification of efforts between, diet, exercise, mental well-being, physical well-being, your relationships is
sleep,
important.
Brushing your teeth,
sleep, flossing.
Yeah.
Someone's listening. They're like, flossing. What is that? Yeah. So just diversification of efforts, and not concentrating all of your time and energy into just one thing. So those were parallels that we talked about. Then we talked about what lessons we can learn from personal growth, what lessons personal growth offers to financial growth. The first one was mindset over mechanics, talking about how a growth mindset in personal development encourages adaptability and resilience, which can be very important to financial growth, especially if you're dealing with volatile markets, or if you're dealing with short-term setbacks with financial goals and your planning strategies. Having the adaptability and the resilience to get through those times, so that way you can get to the greener pastures down the road, is very important. So that way you don't lose track just because of a short-term setback. The other thing was that we talked about the importance of patience. So both personal and financial growth require delayed gratification. So you don't see the results from working out on day one. It takes a lot of time. You don't see the results of investing from day one, or sometimes even a long period of time. It's a long-term goal and plan, and having the delayed gratification and the patience to get to that point is pinnacle. The other thing we talked about was tracking progress. So personal growth often involves setting benchmarks, celebrating the milestones when you hit those goals that you're setting for yourself. Same thing can be said about tracking financial goals and your financial growth. It's important to have those goals, set those goals, and to celebrate the milestones when you get there.
That's good. That's good.
That's just the answer.
And just the answer. Yeah. There's the quick just the answer. There's so much more to unpack in the whole show. Yes. I would strongly recommend that you go back and listen to the whole show. But the summary was excellent.
Thank you, Tim.
Well done.
Yeah,
Thanks,
it was
Tyler.
fun. This was a fun one.
Yeah.
What is even more fun is trivia.
Oh, here it comes. Okay.
Yeah.
All
okay.
Right. Stump the nerd.
Stump the nerd time. This one, I even have the answer in front of me, and I'm like, I still might get it wrong if you ask me the question.
Okay, and just so you know, my vision is not nearly good enough to read the paper that's in front of Tyler. And so I genuinely, I had no idea what the question was, no idea what the outline was, and I certainly have no idea what the trivia question is.
Yeah,
so
no, you like a good surprise anyways.
What do you got?
You want to do that yourself. Okay.
Nope. What do you got?
Which scientific phenomenon explains why the sky appears blue during the day? I'm going to give you some choices, unless you just want to try to go for it.
I mean, my gut would say refraction of light from the ocean, and something like that. Maybe, I don't know if that's real or not. It's probably some old wives' tale that I heard as a kid. I don't know how accurate it is, but I could imagine something along those lines. But what do you got? What are the answers?
Option A is reflection.
Reflection. Okay.
Option B is refraction.
Oh, refraction is one of the answers. Okay. Keep going.
Option C is the Rayleigh scattering phenomenon, and option D is diffraction.
I think it would be. I'm going to go with refraction since that was my first gut check. I don't know.
That's cool.
I'll roll the dice.
Yeah, okay. It's Rayleigh scattering.
I had a feeling it was the other one. The weird one.
Which I had to look it up because I'm like, I got to give some context.
You got to tell me what that is.
It occurs when sunlight interacts with molecules and small particles in Earth's atmosphere.
Oh, okay. All right. See, old wives' tales. They are not always true. Like so many of the other philosophies that you might think are true when it comes to investing. That's a different podcast we've talked about.
Ooh, that was a fun one. And this is why we work in finance and we're not scientists.
That's right. No, we are not scientists. We are money nerds.
That's right. And speaking of being a money nerd, how can they reach us if they want to talk to us?
If you need a money nerd in your life, you should give us a call. Our phone number is 503-579-1000. And you're welcome to check us out on the internet. Our website is clearfp.com. That's clear, C-L-E-A-R, F as in Frank, P as in Peter.com. That stands for Clear Financial Partners.
Love it. I want to see how our podcasts are helping, affecting, or resonating with our listeners. So if you feel that something about your personal growth has cross-pollinated to your financial growth, or there's some story behind that, please share it with us. I think we'd love to hear that. Like, send us an email, a carrier pigeon with a little note on its foot, give us a phone call. I think that'd be really cool to hear.
If you call us, you don't have to necessarily just call us to book an appointment. You can call us and leave us a message and tell us, hey, I just listened to your podcast. I heard this great thing. It was really cool. I just thought I'd let you guys know.
Yeah.
That would be awesome. I'd love to get that voicemail. That'd be so
totally
cool. And if you say, don't even call me back, I don't want to get a call from you, that's fine. You can say that. We won't be offended.
That's cool.
But I'd still love to hear what you're learning. And if you want to email us, you can email us at admin, A-D-M-I-N, at clearfp.com. Our whole team watches that email, and we'd love to hear from you. So hope you had a good time on Clear Money Talk.
Thanks for tuning in. Till next time.
Tim Clairmont and Tyler Andrews are investment advisor representatives offering securities and advisory services through Cetera Advisor Networks LLC, a broker, dealer, and registered investment advisor, member FINRA SIPC. Cetera is under separate ownership from any other named entity. The views depicted in this material are for information purposes only and are not necessarily those of Cetera Advisor Networks LLC. They should not be considered specific advice or recommendations for any individual. For a comprehensive review of your personal situation, always consult with a tax or legal advisor. Neither Cetera Advisor Networks LLC nor any of its representatives may give legal or tax advice. All investing involves risk, including the possible loss of principal. There is no assurance that any investment strategy will be successful. Examples referenced are hypothetical only and do not represent the actual performance of any particular investments. Distributions from traditional IRAs and employer-sponsored retirement plans are taxed as ordinary income, and if taken prior to reaching age 59 and a half, may be subject to an additional 10% IRS tax penalty. Investors should consider the investment objectives, risks and charges, and expenses of mutual funds and ETFs carefully before investing. The prospectus, which contains this and other information about the funds and ETFs, can be obtained directly from the company or from your financial professional. The prospectus should be read carefully before investing or sending money. A diversified portfolio does not assure a profit or protect against loss in a declining market. Dollar cost averaging will not guarantee a profit or protect you from loss, but may reduce your average cost per share in a fluctuating market. Investors cannot invest directly in indexes. The performance of any index is not indicative of the performance of any investment and does not take into account the effects of inflation and the fees and expenses associated with investing. Clear Financial Partners is located at 15573 Bangui Road, Suite 100, Lake Oswego, Oregon 97035. For more information, please call us at 503-579-1000.